moment. And hopefully we get a nice, strong live. Even though it's early afternoon, I want to get this done, get back to my other stuff. But we do need to get a live in for all my people. So there we go. Looks like we're up. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would sit down, do a current events Q&A for you lovely guys and gals. Again, I'm streaming on both platforms. So for someone that made me aware of this earlier, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what new food pyramid? And then I went and checked the news and it had just come out. So I'm going to give my cliff notes on this and then I'll entertain whatever questions we have from people. But remember to hit like as soon as you get in. All right, so RFK's released stuff. There's good and bad in it. I said before, for most people, the old food pyramid probably really wasn't that bad. So what he's done, what's going on, Lars? How you doing? What he's done is he's removed concerns of saturated fat, and I don't necessarily agree with that. In the sense of too much red meat saturated fat isn't ideal. The beef tallow is not ideal. Is dairy fat in a whole food form? Fine. Yeah, it's not a healthy fat, but it's not an unhealthy fat. It's more neutral. Okay. When you start getting into too much red meat, processed red meats, if it's really fatty red meat, that's a problem. Okay, beef tallow is a problem. Butter is absolutely a problem. So these are where we run into issues. On the other hand, he's got it being pushed towards lower carbohydrate. We could make a lot of arguments about what's going on with that. I do a lower carb approach right now. I mean, realistically, I probably only have 50 grams of carbs a day. I've gotten stronger. I'm getting leaner. It's all working great. I tend to thrive on that, but not everybody does. But keep in mind, I don't eat large amounts of saturated fat with it. That I eat red meat, but it's leaner cuts. I eat chicken thighs, but they're more lean. I tend to get my fats from avocados, nuts, almond butter, stuff like that. Heavy on the avocados, although I do a few eggs. I do like 3 eggs a day. So there's that, but he did prioritize other healthy fats in it also. There's a lot of salmon. You see olive oil and stuff in the little pyramid, pretty up near the top. But basically, he's made the top of the food pyramid red meat, dairy, vegetables. Now, with the vegetables thrown in, that's not so bad. This isn't like the pure carnivore craziness. It's basically removing most refined foods from it. Refined sugars completely out. But we would need to look and see, like I haven't dug deep enough to see if beef tallow or butter in there. And if they are, this is definitely where we're going to break with it. All right. And I do think that we need to understand various ethnic differences. And this doesn't get talked about enough because everyone's scared of being called racist. Different macronutrient breakdowns do affect ethnicities differently. Like his food pyramid, actually, for people like me, probably not that bad. Probably pretty reasonable. It would be a disaster for, say, Black people, like in terms of their effect on their blood work. So again, and I'm not saying these are universal truths. We're talking significant segments of the gene flow within those populations. They're not universal rules when we say something like that. Just like we talk about lactose intolerance, for example, it's absurdly low in white people and extremely high in Black people. Doesn't mean there aren't people who break the rules. In fact, millions of people who break the rules there. Right. So hopefully we understand that distinction. But as far as other people in here, Prathar says, hey, Happy New Year. What's up, bro? Teddy says, Team Blaha standing back and standing by. Awesome. Good stuff, Ted. Good stuff, Ted. And hopefully we'll get some hits on the face. The Facebook Lives don't get a lot during, but they get a ton after. But yeah, so that's kind of my breakdown on it. There's good and bad in it. I don't think the low carb approach that he's kind of pushing with it is for everybody. And I say that as someone who personally does really well on that type of diet. I also know that I am technically an outlier and that I would say 50% of the people in the world won't do as great on it. Parathusa, I'm going to check something. Let me look at your channel, make sure you're not that guy. Okay, old channel. If you're 5'10" at 187, I'd probably just recomp for now. I wouldn't bulk. not at 187 already. Because, bro, if you keep training super hard for 3 years, you're still probably not going to be a lean 187 yet, even if you gain as much muscle as possible. If you bulked and cut down, so you have enough body fat. I wouldn't even be thinking about gaining weight yet. I'd sit at the same body weight and recomposition. Load up the protein really heavy, stay near maintenance calories, and just recomp. I think you'll be fine. Right? Fair. You know, that's what I would advise were I coaching you. All right, that's what I would advise. And otherwise, you're just going to get fat. If you were 150 pounds at 5'10", we'd be having a different conversation. But, 187. Right? It's got to be the 187. That's some gangster stuff. James Dubois says, I'm 6'4", 315 pounds with a good diet. Do you still consider your 5x5 a good plan? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a lot of heavier dudes who have lost weight ran it successfully early on. There were people who had logs of it who started overweight and lost 50 pounds in the first year on the program, and they hit some really good numbers. They were pretty much almost advanced lifter numbers by the end of the year. I saw at least one log of someone who did it. Like as in he was hitting 335 for a 5x5 squat. He was hitting like 235 for a 5x5 bench, all that, while in a deficit the whole year. What range of dietary fat would you recommend an active male in his early 20s to eat daily? I wouldn't. It's gonna be based upon calorie needs. Are you doing a high fat or a low fat diet? What's your reason for picking one for the other? I don't have a recommendation. It could be anywhere from it being 50% of your calories, all the way down to 30 grams a day for some people, depending on specifically what you were trying to do. James Dubois says, I'm looking to drop weight quickly. I lifted a lot in college, so I know my form's just needing a new program. It'll work fine. No, you're good, dude. You lifted a lot in college, previously had a base, you have decent form, you're dropping weight, run with it. I think given a big frame like that, I think it'll be successful. Yeah, we don't have to go into the exact percentages. Like, I'm not a big fan of breaking those percentages down to the exact amount. Peter says, how long does it take for neural adaptations and lifting to be done with? I don't know. Depends on what age you start. They're probably going to be end no matter what by your 60s, though. They're going to start regressing. Or are you under some assumption that, this is on Facebook, are you under the assumption that neural gains are just a one-time deal? Because they're not. You should always be seeing some improvements in neural drive and neuromuscular efficiency trace amounts for decades. It's just that they're not going to be as robust as new motor unit learning on a new exercise. In fact, every time you do a new exercise, multi-joint movement you're not previously trained on, you're going to go through the whole adaptation phase again. Every time. Like if you've only been doing bench press and incline and you've never done a weighted dip and you start doing weighted dips, you're going to have a massive 3-week neural adaptation again. But for an individual exercise, most of them are done in 3 weeks. And then probably another good chunk by 6. And after that, it's just going to be a trickle. Make sense? All right, back over to the tubes. Oh, man, we got a bunch come through here. TW says, Jason, what accessories would you recommend someone trying to up their bench press? If not much, I'm cheating, plateauing, trying to hit. It's going to depend on where you're weakest on your bench. Honestly, dude, I don't know where your bench is weak. I don't know what your best accessories are going to be. But as a general rule, I think either dips or incline, depending upon if you can pin down where you're weakest, are generally going to be safe choices. Synchro says, love the channel. I've been watching for years. Thanks for all the help. You're most welcome, bro. TD says dropped in to hit like Stephen Diggs did his chief. James says, thanks so much for the advice, Jason. I'll be sure to check in. I'll let you know how it went in 6 months. My boys are 3 years old now, so this is for them, not for me. Hey, man, that's part of being a good father, isn't it? You know, I've given whole speeches on that. A man needs to be strong to set an example for his family and to be alive. Obviously, the losing weight is so that you're alive and you're not dying of heart attacks. But when your boys are 16 years old or 20, and you can hold your grandchildren one day. But let's come back over to setting that good example while your boys are young. You know, if dad's out of shape, dad's overweight, dad's not lifting, that's what they're going to see. But they grew up in the household and dad's in there doing some squats and deadlifts and bench pressing, and dad's over here eating a cleaner diet. What example are you setting for them? So I like that. I like you using that for motivation. Because that's just about setting a good example for your sons as a man. And I applaud that. All right, David says, good evening, coach. Hope you're well. Yeah, we're doing great, dude. Teddy says, if Liver King and RFK Jr. both came across a dead whale on the beach, who's taking it? Oh, man, I don't know. Both of them. I guess it's a question of, oh, Connor, we've already covered it in the first few minutes, dude. It's up. You can see the whole kind of pyramid. It's on every news channel today. It's up everywhere. Is 1 year a reasonable time frame to achieve your novice strength standards at my height and weight? Depends on the person. Probably depends on genetics, previous life history, all sorts of stuff. A lot of people, I will say, maybe 1 in 3 guys are going to reach it if they train hard. A handful are going to struggle to do it in 3 years just due to genetics, unfortunately. Joe Schmo says, I got my arms from 16.5 to 18 by prioritizing progressive overload, starting each workout with strict curls, began only being able to do 95 pounds for 5 reps, to doing it for 17s. Nice, good stuff. My concern, I deadlift every workout. And I deadlift pretty respectable work sets. Can you think of a downside to that? I can. I do try to worry about stuff like that. Having that bicep pump going into a deadlift. Right? That freezer full of roadkill guts got RFK pretty jacked, right? Well, red meat, and depending upon context for how much fat is in your cuts of red meat and how much butter, absolutely not. Butter is 100% not a healthy fat. It is one of the worst fats you can eat. But as far as the other go, but that's the thing with any saturated fat. Saturated fat never really qualifies as a healthy fat. It can be a bad or it can be a benign fat, depending upon what food it's in and the matrix of all of it. But it's definitely not healthy in the sense of it doesn't ever lower inflammation. It doesn't ever improve insulin sensitivity, right? It doesn't have benefits itself as a general rule that other fats don't also bring. All right. Only sat fat I have is from eggs. Yeah, I mean, I have some red meat. I have beef, but I don't do particularly fatty cuts. I mean, I tend to do sirloin or a lot of chuck roast or some leaner beef ribs. Even the chicken thighs I do, they're when you look at the numbers on them, it's 4.5 grams of fat per 22 grams of protein. They're still leaner. I tend to eat more monounsaturated than anything. All right, monounsaturated are always my dominant fat source, plant-based monos. Like I do two large avocados every day right now. But I do eggs. I do 3 eggs most days. All right. It's the carnivore tab. Well, he's got vegetables at the top also. So we can't call it carnivore in this case because vegetables are at the top of the food pyramid. The carnivore dieters don't eat vegetables. which is the biggest issue. Like the health problems with the carnivore diet, half of them would completely go away if they just ate some vegetables. I know I'm in a minority, but I prefer chicken breast over red meat. And I know other people like that. Avocados are cool. Yep. I'm going to refill my milk. I'm almost out. All right, we're back. See if we look big or not today. We looking big today, guys. All right. The older I get, the more I realize squats are essential for maxing strength and hypertrophy, but deadlifts not so much. I've taken long breaks from deadlifting and hit PRs on, but never with squats. Yeah. I mean, I think they're great still. It's just that your point is correct that other movements can build the deadlift. I think deadlifts are great for hypertrophy. It's just that it's a lot of muscles you see on the side. Deadlifts make you thick. They don't do anything for the front. But yeah, I do agree. Squats, if you're trying to really be jacked and strong, you have to squat. Like I don't buy this nonsense. Yeah, squats are non-negotiable for older lifters. Absolutely. You can't afford to lose the bone density benefits and stuff. You just bring too much to the table for your hips and everything else. The hips, the femurs, right? Making you break resistant. Yeah, deadlifts are getting tough for me now as I'm getting a little leaner. I've noticed that. I think they'll come back up. I just kind of got to get it all balanced. But I'm losing reps while other stuff's going up. We're losing those a little bit. But it's the diet is playing a big role. But I do need to get a little leaner. So still the best thing I could do for my fitness business, probably. I'm not as concerned with that. Yeah. We need a funny status. You guys got a good funny status I can make for Facebook. It can be off the hinges too. I got one. And I know how to fire people up. I haven't made one of these in a few days. Probably time. There we go. Let's stir some people up. I can make a totally positive, unhateful post and watch how it hits if I do it. Y'all ready? And this is how crazy and twisted we've come as a world. People will try to spin it into something racist. I'm gonna post it. And then watch. You guys follow it for fun and see how people interact with it. It'll get a bunch of positive and then it'll get a bunch of hate. when in reality, it's anti-racist. But that's how twisted and warped we are as a society. I'm going to read it out. Actually, I'll pin it. Yeah, you saw it already, Connor. Yeah, it's going to set people off. I put, white people have nothing to be ashamed of or apologize for. Our net contributions to the world have been overwhelmingly positive with a heart. People are crazy, though. And it shouldn't even be controversial. Let's come back over to a few people at my gym fear deadlifts, so I'm going to help them with form. There you go. I mean, just fix the form. By what mechanisms do AAS increase bad cholesterol? This is going to be a little bit of nuance here. Androgens themselves, due to their own hormone profile, tend to elevate LDL-C, but I don't know the full mechanism by which they do it. Right. It does have something to do with their hormone structure specifically. And keeping in mind, they're a cholesterol-based molecule. You have to remember that hormones are cholesterol-based. But yeah, I don't know the actual mechanism. And it varies a lot from drug to drug and person to person. Connor says, they said they hurt themselves deadlifting, so it's going to get these people deadlifting properly. Yeah, they need to fix their form. Dude, I fix deadlift form all day for clients. You'd be shocked how many people follow me for years, hire me to coach them, who are smart, intelligent people with training experience, who they don't know basic things on the deadlift. They still don't know how to pull the slack out of the bar. Right? And it's crazy to me because the deadlift is such a simple, easy exercise to learn. But it's because people try to squat the weight up. Or one of two things, they either try to squat the weight up or they fishing pole it. Those are both incorrect. Black Harvey says, hey, Jason, what's up, Black Harvey? How you doing? There you go, Connor. You're hitting that post. But watch how people are, man. Watch how they are. So let's see what happens with it. That was a good one. Oh, good. People are hitting it immediately, so that helps too. Yeah, it was a big concern too. Even some strongmen do the squatted up Q, especially guys in suits, right? Especially guys in suits. They try to use that suit to their advantage, and they think that they're going to be safe squatting it up just because they have the straps on and their overhand. Except that we've seen people tear biceps double overhand with straps. And the same risk with when we deal with sheet rows. You know, like I look at the heavy underhand grip sheet rows like Dorian did, and mechanically it's a great exercise, but it'll still tear the hell out of your biceps. It's risky on the biceps, right? Especially once you start sheet rowing that way. But I mean, from a muscle building perspective, it's a great exercise. I've heard a lot of trainers saying when you deadlift, you should imagine pressing the earth with your feet. Doesn't that apply to squatting? Not really. I do see what they're saying, but I don't teach that cue. I teach to wedge your hips forward. So I describe it as a chainsaw, right? Deadlifting, a correct deadlift is like a chainsaw, right? So you know how the chain goes. So imagine turn the chainsaw up, this and this, right? So the back drops as the front comes up. Plus, I think most guys can get behind that. You start describing a chainsaw and they can picture a chainsaw with it. It works well for dudes, you know. Like, oh, hell yeah, man, it's like a chainsaw. I'm a chainsaw. Yeah. I don't think you can go wrong with that. But it is also accurate if you think in terms of the movement pattern. You know who I got that from? I got that from Dr. Alan Bacon, of all people, right? I'm like, that works really good. I mean, it's already what we do and we do it correctly, but it's a good descriptor. Matt says, good push session today, coach. Top set of Swiss bar bench stayed the same, but picked up reps on back off work and the incline dumbbell work. Same body weight as last week. That's Team Blaha. There we go, man. Dude, if we're picking up a rep on anything, anywhere, we're doing good. Because, you know, once you're not a novice and you're towards it being advanced, any week where you pick up a rep. All right. No, Alan Bacon. He's a coach I know who's went from being a dental surgeon to going into full-time strength coaching. He's actually a surgeon, yes, with an MD, but he wanted to strength coach, and he and his wife both do it. But yeah, man, as an advanced lifter, dude, any week or any exercise, if you can pick up one rep anywhere, it's a win. You know, then the carb's lower now. But look at how much different I look. All right. We be looking different. We be looking different. Politics again. Well, that was in the first part, Metroid. We've been talking training after the first 5 minutes. I don't think we brought the politics back up. But we're going to discuss politics. You know, it's going to be a topic. Going to be multifaceted. Jason, your loose skin is looking better. Significant. You think it's diet being? I think it's the diet. Yeah, and I agree. It is definitely looking better. Some days it's worse than others, but the stuff on the back and the flank is tightening more. How should I demonstrate? I've seen an infographic of it somewhere, of like showing the guy with the two arrows, like a drawing of the deadlift, and then a chainsaw in front of him showing the lines. So as you pull into the deadlift, your hips drop into the pull, like the back end of the blade of a chainsaw, while you pull up with the bar. As opposed to if you squat it up, then they both come up at the same time. That's not good. That would be not. Charm Heart pretty soon. You know what? That is how war happens. That's what happens in these invasions. So who's at fault? The leadership of that country to put us in a situation where we needed to? Like, I'm going to tell you straight up, everybody wanted this to be done. The entire left wanted that country sorted. Biden put a $25 million bounty on this guy's head his last year in office. Do you understand that? So I'm going to tell you straight up, homie, if you're complaining about Trump's activity and going in and getting rid of this guy, then you're a piece of shit. I'm just going to tell you straight up. You're a bad human being. And I'm not trying to be mean, but let's just call facts facts. You are letting Trump derangement syndrome get in the way of what everybody wanted. Everybody wanted him out, including the Democrats. They're only crying because Trump did it. And he did it efficiently and fast. 2 hours. keeping in mind, Joe Biden put a $25 million bounty on this guy. Do you understand that? He signed off on it with his name as president. $25 million bounty with his signature. All right, I'm not going to go into all the discussions. You don't understand. Yeah, if you don't understand, then maybe you need to not think about politics or economics. I'm just going to be straight with you. If you don't understand why we would want the oil, but let's assume there was no oil. The drugs alone were a good reason. I've said for a long time, any country that's shipping drugs into our country that refuses to stop, we should invade them. I've been saying that for 20 years. That alone was a good reason. No, this was a decisive, smart move for him, and it was well executed. Minimal collateral damage, and he had the guy in custody flying out of the country within 2 hours. Do you understand how perfectly executed that was? Yeah. So who said steal? Did you not look into the sanctions that have already been legally ruled against Venezuela on the oil? Like, are you that much Trump derangement syndrome? Are you that deep into TDS, which is a mental illness? You should probably be in an insane asylum if you have it. Are you that so far deep into TDS that you didn't go research the history of the oil and technically what courts have ruled Venezuela owes people? Due to deals they've broken and stuff, contracts they broke for shipments of oil and stuff to the U.S.? You're aware? Did you look into any of this, or did you purely buy into Orange Man bad? Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad. Orange Man bad. Oh no, Orange Man bad. Like, maybe you should go talk to a therapist about your fear of the Orange Man. That's all I'm saying, dude. I see. I'm gonna be a dick if you come at Trump in my thing. All right. So get ready for it. I'm gonna make fun of you. So just be pepper thine Angus if you go there, because you don't have to start that argument. But if you want to, I'm gonna make fun of you. And for me, yeah, it is America first. I'm a very staunch U.S. nationalist. I'm not smart enough to understand politics, but I'm not dumb enough to be mentally challenged. It's a hard life. All right. When a regime change, they're going through a transition. Well, what do you mean no regime change? Lars, that's your TDS coming through. Okay. All right. Lars, that's called TDS also. He didn't change any regime. He literally extracted the leader and he's going before a court. Okay. That would be like if someone came and took Trump out of the country, you would say there's no regime change 2 days later. Like, really? Trump isn't the biggest part of the regime? Think of the logic of what you just wrote. Well, the head of the snake has been cut off. That's a hell of a start to a regime change. And there's a process that has to take place. It's going to be a moment. But what we also can't do is go in and do this with a country. We can't go in and force all the contracts, the other stuff with the oil that they broke. We can't do all that stuff and just walk away and leave it in chaos either. But your party's trying to be like they're Christians and God. We are. Hey, Metroid, we are the party of Jesus. And I'll stand by that. As it stands, the Republican Party is the most heavily entrenched in Christian values. Well, most celebrities are scumbag pieces of shit. Look at their lifestyles. They have repugnant lifestyles. They're alcoholic, drug addict cheaters. living lives of excess. Yeah, damn right they don't like a Christian leader. Use some common sense here. That full body been doing you good. Appreciate it, man. Same organization still in charge. So if you keep taking pop shots at my president, I am going to ban you, though, by the way. Let's just be clear. I am pro-Trump. I am pro this activity. And I'm not going to allow too much TDS in my stuff, man. Unless you're going to pay money for it, we don't need all that bullshit. Now, I was over here talking about training till you guys brought this up. Well, Metroid, I almost banned you right now, but I'm going to give you one more chance. I'll be sure to hit the ban button. I stop. I'm going to be nice. All right. I really wonder if there are any Hollywood actors. There's probably a handful, but they're going to be the exception, not the norm. You know, be the exception, not the norm. Metroid, it sounds like you need to get on that Trump train, baby. Get on that MAGA train. Make America great again. Look, we're already in the process, man. America is becoming great again. Coach laying down the law today. Turtle Bob says, I've been doing 3 to 5 full body sessions a week, and it's getting stronger way faster. Kind of makes me wonder why nobody else uses what tons of people do, though, man. What about the First Amendment? So, Lars, do I need to give you a history lesson on the First Amendment? What about the First Amendment? Okay. Do you understand what the Bill of Rights is? And do you understand who the Bill of Rights is a protection against and who it limits? All right. The Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments, is there to limit the power of government. Right? It's to limit the power of government. So First Amendment would be that the government cannot put you in prison or execute you and murder you as a U.S. citizen over unpopular political speech. That is what the First Amendment is. Unless you are inciting certain things. Now, First Amendment doesn't protect you in a court, like a civil court. No, it doesn't say that. Yeah, Lars, you may need to go brush up on your Constitution. So it doesn't say that at all. The election was stolen. You know what? Get the fuck out of my channel, Metro. I ain't got time for your goofy far left bullshit. Get out of my channel. Done. You came to here and pick a fight with me in my own channel. You came here to pick a fight. Well, you're going to lose that one. How'd that go for you? You came and picked that fight. I didn't even mention Trump. You brought the whole topic up and then started a fight. So get your Mickey Mouse, far left, cock-sucking ass out of here. Out. Yeah, it doesn't say that at all, Lars. Just wanted to drop and hit a 300-pound total chin for reps. Dang. So, yeah, the separation of church and state is not actually in the Bill of Rights. It's a doctrine later adopted that the courts have upheld. But you are to have freedom of religion, meaning in the United States, you are allowed to have any religion that you want. And the government cannot restrict that. So if you're in the U.S. and you want to be Christian, Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist, a Hindu, the law protects your right to do that. You're even allowed to be a Satanist. Yeah. Been very happy with progress. Good stuff, man. Dude, a 300-pound total, that's pretty solid though, man. So that's again assuming we mean body weight plus the plates. Yeah, it's good stuff. Hey Connor, I'm not going to go into that one, but I'm not going to, ban you talking about it. You're free to, but I'm not going to jump into those conversations here. But I'm also not going to explicitly ban them from my streams either. Fair? All right. Total, I thought you did 300. No. He means the body weight plus added. No, dude, imagine doing a 320 pounds of added weight chin up to any body weight. My God. Think about how crazy that would be. It's all good. I remember you having clients. I literally have had clients of multiple religions. Like, if you want me to go down the row of actual religions, I've had Christians, Muslim, Jews, Buddhists, Sikh, have all been clients. Right? I've had every one of those as clients. Same thing, Ramadan's about to come up again. So as a coach, I have to be ready for that. Because one of my guys, like 5-year clients, he's very strict with his Ramadan, and I've had him for 5 years. So every single year we set goals the week before because he knows he's going to lose strength. He's going to lose strength. It's going to happen. Like, we know this, but he ends up being lean at the end. But yeah. So this year he's like, I want a 315 bench. Last time it was like a 500 deadlift. So we're trying to get there. I don't know if we have enough time, but we're going to make a push for it because then he knows his bench is going to go down 20 pounds. Yeah, but still, shorter doesn't matter, dude. It's still hard. Like, you're losing gains. There's just no way around it. That is just the simple reality that I deal with as a coach. The same thing. I've had a power lifter who was Jewish and couldn't do meets or train on Shabbats. And it's like, you work around these things as a coach, man. You just do the best you can to make it flow. The problem he ran into, just like, Muslims with Ramadan, most powerlifting meets are on Saturdays. The majority of powerlifting meets are on Saturdays. This is a conflict. He was a competitor. Oh man, what you gonna do? All right. Okay, I'll look it up now. Preventing the government from establishing it. Yeah. Right. And that is true. Do you enjoy any EDC channels? I watch quite a few of them. Turtle Bob. I don't necessarily know the names, but I've watched a lot of the ones and see what they have to say. A lot of times when I'm doing other work, I listen to some stuff like that lately again. What I'm thinking of switching to later on, maybe next year or later this year for EDC, you're going to be shocked if I tell you what I'm really considering. This is going to sound like blasphemy to some people. Because keep in mind, that's a Glock 19. That's my EDC. I want to get into 1911s a lot, but I like inside the house 45s, but for a lot of reasons. But I honestly think for out on the street, I'm leaning in the direction of a 1911 single stack 9mm for conceal. And yes, I have a whole chain of logic with that. By the way, you guys are free to have your political debate there, but Connor, I am going to request that you don't ban him for it. That's fair. So you guys are allowed to carry on your debate, but let's try to keep it civil. Oh, man. Fair. Okay, cool. I'm not going to jump into that debate, but if y'all want to hash it out in the comments, that is y'all's purview. And Lars, you are right. As it's set, that was a big point of contention among the founding fathers. So let me be clear. Half of the founding fathers wanted the U.S. to be a Christian nation. The other half said absolutely not. Ballpark around $600 US. So our boss is also planning on getting some reloading equipment. Yeah, if you're going to do 357 mag, you probably should hand load. My advice. I used to hand load a lot of 357 in my 20s. But for 1911s for carry, I'm looking at least double that. Like the Glock 19 is fairly inexpensive, even though it's a common duty weapon for police. The FBI even issues it to field agents. Actually, it's the most common model they issue. They're in the 600 range. But now I'm leaning in the direction of the 1911 single stack. And the reason, and it sounds crazy, it's so much easier to carry than the double stack like 2011s. But it has to do with the accuracy. And even though I love 45, I'm absolutely admit 9mm shot per shot is at least 90% as effective, if not 100%, with appropriate modern ammo. So it really is about shot placement and appropriate ammo. And so 10 rounds, 9+1. With the accuracy and ease of follow-up shots with a 1911 brings a lot to the table. And yes, I only have 10 rounds before I have to reload. And we could make a lot of arguments about that. But I feel like the loss of capacity is absolutely worth the precision and the accuracy, particularly if I've got to take anyone at a little further range. It doesn't matter at 7 yards. 7 yards, dude. Glock 19, I can punch this all day long. But what if they're at 25 yards? I really like that ability to get fast, quick, accurate shots and follow-up shots with that 9mm on that platform. Because with 45, it's going to be slower on the follow-ups. So I'm leaning in that direction. Whereas inside the house, I like the 45. Mainly, as crazy as it sounds, the bigger, heavier round, plus it's always subsonic. It's a few decibels less, and I've already have hearing damage. So if I've got to defend my life in the house, I generally don't want to have to go in. I always want it as quiet as possible for a given amount. Of course, they just dropped the tax stamp on suppressors, so long term, I'll probably do an SBR with a suppressor for a bedside. But I like 45s for general. Just answer the door. I feel like lever actions are super slept on. Less likely to have a courtroom look at you, Nate. But that's it's just because of the courtroom. Be careful where you live. And I get that. But as someone who's hunted with a lever gun in 357 with hot hand loads, I understand what you're saying as a 357 guy. Like out of a 16-inch carbine, like a lever action rifle. So again, for the people, non-gun guys, think of the cowboy guns from the 1800s, right? 357 with a hot hand load out of that 16-inch barrel, you pick up about 500 feet per second going from like a standard revolver to that carbine length barrel. Not for most cartridges, but for a 357 you do. See where I'm going with that? So I took my first deer, not my first, my second deer. First was a 222 250. So I took my second deer with a lever gun in 357 with a soft nose, just a lead nose semi-jacketed round, like a 158 grain. And I took him at like 70, 80 yards in one hit. One hit and he dropped. Yeah, Hornady makes some specific projectiles for the lever guns. All right. They got those special polymer tip ones because you can't use pointed bullets otherwise. That's what kills you in a lever gun. Destroys your ballistic coefficient. You can't have a point unless it's polymer. That's because of the tube feeding. So the recoil, if you have a pointed bullet in a lever gun, the recoil can cause the point to hit the primer in front of it and fire inside the tube. And then your whole ammo stack goes off. Yeah, the lever revolution. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. No, they work really well. They're proven. But I can tell you also, if you're inside of 100 yards, the 357 with a lead nose, like even old school projectiles, it will get the job done. But that point where you're looking at is the ballistic coefficient, right? It doesn't matter at 50 yards. Let's just be clear. It makes no difference at 50 yards. It could be a half inch of drop difference. 150 yards, it matters. No, there's something to be said for lever guns. I always said that before too. If we ever had entered a situation, I said this years ago in one of the gun channel videos, where somehow there was a fire, a ban done, and our semi-autos got taken, what would I carry? Right? I did a video on that, I think, on the gun channel. And I had said that if that event happened, I would do 357 mag and I would have lever guns and revolvers both in it. And I'd just throw an aim point and a rail on top of the lever gun. And that'd be my home defense. Yeah, personally, we said if you're at 50 to 75 due to your terrain, you're anywhere in the south, you're not going to catch a lot of deer to long distances. So you're not going to see them. So yeah. A 270 doesn't have a lot of options. I'll just go with the 308. Like if you're going to stick with a bolt gun of that case capacity, it's go to 308. Life would be easier. We bored people with the gun check though. But yeah, it might be about time to wind all this down though. Get back to my memes. So let me give you guys a bicep shot before we go. Oh, Mount Bicephus. Look at those veins. We got veins under there. What's going on with that? All right, let me shut down the Facebook. And we're out.